Hello and welcome to 24 Lives Per Second, the Guernsey-themed podcast that you deserve, but not the one you need right now. And if you're thinking that I've made a classic error by referencing a DC property rather than a Marvel one, then stay tuned, because this is episode 7, Film Nerds Assemble. My name is Winter Tyson, still not watching any Prometheus trailers, and assembled with me are Russ Calloway.
Hello.
And Peter Taylor.
Hello.
In this bumper episode, we'll be dissembling what is perhaps the first really big film of the summer, a motion picture that unites a group of characters so iconic that one has to wonder if the silver screen can take it. But that's enough about American Reunion, because we also have to make room for a film about some superheroes assembling something, probably a wardrobe, I don't know.
The world has changed.
At this point, I doubt anything would surprise me.
We are hopelessly outgunned.
Mr. Stark.
Captain, it's time. I still believe in heroes.
The Avengers. That's what we call ourselves.
Earth's mightiest heroes type thing.
I have an army.
We have a Hulk.
Avengers Assemble is a culmination of many years' work by Marvel, the film that all those scenes during the end credits have been building up to, and the gang are all here. Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, the Hulk, Nick Fury, the Black Widow, and Robin Hood, or Hawkeye or something. The team is assembled when Loki, last seen in Thor, comes to Earth with big, bad plans. So, Pete, is this a AA powered movie, or like Tony Stark, should it be attending AA?
Well, it's interesting because I was not really particularly excited about this movie, but they have injected so much advertising into everywhere that literally everywhere I go, I'd see stuff for the Avengers, see the trailer, see everything, and I got excited by that. So yep. I was so excited to see this by the end of it, and I think that actually it would have been better if they hadn't done all the marketing and I'd have gone into it knowing pretty much nothing about it, because I just felt a bit let down by it. It was a great blockbuster film. It had funny moments. It had good They were all good superheroes. They're all good characters. They're actually kind of fleshed out characters. But it was way too long for a start. I think when I start looking at my watch at a film, that's not a good sign. And I must have looked at my watch after the first hour in this one. Because it does take, it's called Avengers Assemble, but it does take them a hell of a long time to actually do that. And I'd seen the trailer and I'd seen that there's this big final scene. And I'm essentially just waiting for that final scene because that's the coolest bit about it. And I thought it was really good. But it just took far too long getting there. Other than that, I'd say it was a really good movie. Just cut out some of the stuff that wasn't necessary.
See, I was quite surprised because they've essentially spent, 4 or 5... maybe 6 films building up to it. There was a lot of reintroduction, I thought, during the first hour. And I was kind of thinking, well, come on, we don't need this. We know who all of these guys are. But, I thought it was a pretty good film. Some pretty good action in it. I know there's terrible film criticism going on here. It's pretty sweet. And it was quite funny as well, which I didn't expect it to be so funny.
I actually expected it to be more funny, annoyingly, just because I'm quite a big Joss Whedon fan in terms of his dialogue. I expected to be laughing sort of every time the Avengers talked to each other, and I was sort of let down by that almost, because there were some funny lines and some funny a lot of slapstick moments which were quite good. They fit in quite well, but I just expected to be laughing a lot more than I did.
Yeah, it wasn't a very Whedon-y film.
No,
there wasn't sort of the banter like you'd have in Serenity and Alien Resurrection.
There was some clever dialogue that you thought, oh, that's good. When Loki first arrives and they talk about freedom, and that was actually it made you feel like the film was more well put together because they were actually talking about interesting topics, and
the dialogue wasn't corny. I don't think. When that's what you sometimes struggle with in kind of superhero films, is the dialogue just kind of falls by the wayside. But I think you're right. It took quite a serious tone to that, and that kind of worked. I agree with you in terms of the time. I thought it was too long. I think the problem that comes from is that the action scenes were very long, and the reason they were long is because when you've got an action scene and it features 5 superheroes, you've got 5 times the action to go on. Especially the last battle goes on for about 45 minutes, and when you've seen something like 13 Assassins, where the battle goes on for the last hour and a half, but it's amazing. It kind of it struggles to kind of match up to something like that. But I'm like you, I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. I think there's been, I was saying to you, Winter, earlier on, I think there's been a bit too much attached to it in terms of it being the best film of the year and amazing. I think it's
had a massive positive reaction.
Like I say, and I think it's great for a Saturday afternoon superhero movie. I think it was a really difficult film to make because it could have been terrible. It had all the pitfalls there to be rubbish. And like Pete said, I think it was all actually the kind of the smaller moments that were better. I thought there's a fight there between Iron Man and Thor in like a wood that's really good, and there's some good stuff with the Hulk and Loki towards the end, which is kind of a real good laugh and stuff. And so I really enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. If you don't like that kind of thing, it's probably not going to be for you because it's pretty much I think it's the biggest example of superhero blockbuster you're going to get. So like, if you don't like superhero movies, I can't imagine you're going to really enjoy this.
See, I was pleasantly surprised because the only one that I've really enjoyed has been Captain America. I don't really like either of the Iron Man films. I thought 2 was better because it was a bit less serious than the first one.
Which we will talk about at some other point because I don't know what you're thinking.
He is wrong on that, but don't worry.
Mickey Rourke's in it. But and Thor was just I just thought a stupid film that didn't really know what it was on about.
It was really good.
And sort of both of the Incredible Hulk ones. Well, the first Incredible Hulk one are the reason Marvel set up their own studio because they hated it that much. But
it's actually quite interesting.
But they're both sort of half
flaws at the
half
end.
of a good film, both of them. Whereas this one, I just thought it was much more random. I don't know if it's because there's less screen time for people like Thor and Iron Man. And I've got to say, I really hate that device they use for Iron Man when, in the middle of action, you just get this
cut to his face.
Full stop of Iron Man's face.
It was used quite a lot during the Avengers.
It's because they need to show his face because he's like the man. He's the man behind the franchise.
Well, Downey Jr. probably has it written to his contract, I'd imagine, to have a certain amount of face time, and he struggles behind that. But like I say, I thought it was great. I thought it was very good. Worth a watch for sure.
I think the Hulk makes it. I think Mark Ruffalo is the best.
Yeah,
Hulk,
I thought he was excellent.
The way he plays Banner, I mean, he does it really simply in that very basic Jekyll and Hyde one. I thought the Eric Banner one was quite. I think it delved into pretentiousness. Ed Norton was too serious.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, when he changes into the Hulk, it's played for slapstick. It's played as just
he gets it.
Hulk smash is what I think Captain America just says. Hulk smash, and he does. And I thought one of the good things about the end battle was that because it's 5 superheroes and 2 other people, I don't know, they
Shield agents.
They sort of built up the problem being the numbers of the enemy rather than the enemy being all powerful. Or it was so I thought that was quite a clever little thing to do to make sure, because you did at one point I did think, I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if someone died.
Yeah,
I mean that would have been spectacular.
That would have been amazing.
Someone if they'd had the balls to do that, probably Thor.
But Josh, and that's the good thing I think was that Josh, for me anyway, he's not afraid to actually kill off his characters. I know it would have been a very ballsy move to do it in a superhero franchise, but like you say, it did kind of lead up to the fact that you thought, well, hold on, okay, someone actually could die here. Although you mentioned the Hulk, and that's the bit that irritated me because I'm not a big comic book fan. I know of the Hulk. I used to read a few things. Is he invincible? Because
he seems to be. I don't read the comics. I've got to say,
pretty much
when that happens, I get a bit bored. Well, what's the point then? You can just defeat everything, surely, if you're invincible.
Yeah.
And then that ruined it for me. So the Hulk was good. Mark Ruffalo was good at it, but then when he was invincible... Yeah,
I know what you're saying, because that's what I didn't like about the Iron Man films, because suddenly it becomes a computer graphic punching another computer graphic in the face, and you kind of think, well, this isn't very exciting. But for some reason here with the Hulk, it just worked this time round when it hadn't... Maybe it's because I think the tone of the film as a whole is a lot less serious than the previous installments.
And I think it works... I think because I agree with that flaw, and it's worse in the single films of the Hulk because then you're watching a whole film thinking
it's just him,
what's going to happen with him. But I mean, in this, it's more because he has less prominence. I think it's evened out, and you almost forget that because it's kind of
it was a point that I sort of remembered to remember, if you want. So it's not like it really irritated me during the thing, but I just thought, I wonder what this is.
But I did love that Ruffalo line right at the end. I thought that was brilliant, and I thought a really interesting twist to the Hulk's
to
the Hulk's character, and I think just Whedon sort of putting in those little slight twists on what's gone before, and just I think the one-liners were quite good. There's a really nice bit when Captain America says, "Oh, why don't you just destroy them?" and they go, "Well, they're essentially gods," and he says, "Well, no, there's only one god," because that's what his character does. I loved all those tiny little moments. Around them, there was a lot of padding, but overall, it was good. Not as good as the bits. So, not equal to the sum of its parts.
Yeah, I agree.
Our second film this week is the fourth slice of pie, not counting all of those straight to, I'm not even going to watch it when they're on TV sequels. American Pie Reunion. Jim, Oz, Finch, Stifler, Kevin, I think. All the girls who didn't even bother to show up for number 2, and Eugene Levy's eyebrows have returned for yet more laughter and borderline sexually sociopathic behaviour. So, what's the verdict? Is the pie still fresh? And did I just say what I thought I said?
You did. You said fresh and pie.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll start on the hammering with American. I'm not. Are we calling it American Reunion or is it American Pie the Reunion? I'm not.
I think it's American Reunion.
It isn't fine. Just so I know, American Reunion. Fine. I hated it. I watched it and didn't laugh. Well, I did laugh once and then felt guilty for laughing because it was when Jim got his penis out, and I felt I'm laughing at that. It's kind of squashed against a pan lid, and I don't know. It just. Look, I'm struggling. I hated it. I really hated it.
So interesting. Did you like the first American Pie?
The first one, loved it. But I think the problem is, I mean, I was saying to you earlier, I think the problem is, I watched that, and what is that? Is it 10 years ago? It's Get Old Friends. So 18 years old. That I was prime fodder for that film. I was that was my target audience. That was my target audience. I was their target audience, and so watched it, laughed. I bought it on VHS when it came out. Watched it again. And it's one of those classic. That's Something About Mary. All that kind of stuff was hilarious, absolutely brilliant. And then, all the other sequels I never bothered watching because I thought, well, there's no way they're going to live up to, that first one. They're just, power of diminishing returns and all that kind of stuff. And then this one comes along, and you think, oh, okay, yeah, they will come back. All the ingredients are there for this to be really funny. And then you just go, no, it's not. And I feel gutted that I actually went to see it, and that it was just another direct sequel. It was nothing special. It was basically the same plot strand 5 times played out over the same film. The same thing happened to everyone in 90 minutes. There was nothing exciting there at all. The only plot line with any kind of heart there, I felt, was Jim's dad, which was kind of interesting. I liked where they took that, and it was a bit of there, because I think heart's the key for me, was above all, the original had heart. And like I say Something About Mary again, it had that underlying real affection and kind of niceness to it. And this one is just rubbish. Everyone wants to sleep with these people in this film. Why? Why do they want to do that? Half of them are uglier than me, and I don't understand why they'd want to do that. And then just no one acts. I know it's a film, but no one acts like that. People do things in this film that people would never do. And then
taking bondage gear to a house party.
That was when I wrote this down. Yeah. Who goes to a party? Fair enough. You might go to a party when you're young, and you might have sex in their parents' bedroom or something like that. But then you don't go there 10 years later when you're married with a kid and take bondage gear, and halfway through the night go up and get changed, and then the police turn up. Oh, isn't that hilarious? And I don't know. At one point, Jim, the character of Jim, actually says, when are we going to realise it's never going to be like it was when we were back in high school? And I went, exactly, Jim. When are you? So for me, it's not funny. I didn't enjoy it. I apologise.
Sorry, when was the last time you watched the first one? Because what do you expect? It's American Pie. It was the same kind of stuff in the first one. Fair enough, it might have more heart, and I went into it thinking, oh, this is rubbish. But then I got carried away with it, and I started laughing because I liked the characters already.
I'll tell you what's changed, and it's not the film's fault. I'm 10 years older.
Okay, yeah.
I would say that's potentially why. That's potentially one reason why I didn't like it. I know Winter saw it in a cinema where everyone else thought it was hilarious. And maybe that's the problem. And I say I maybe am, but I would have thought this film I would still be their target audience, because by getting them back together, who's going to go and see it? The people who enjoyed the first one. But maybe I'm just rubbish. Maybe I'm just too old. At 28, I'm no longer good. But 21 Jump Street I laughed at, and that was funny. And that was the same kind of, stuff going on, but it was a bit more crazy. And this was just old and hack and just boring.
Now, I'll tell you what's changed. It's not we've got older, obviously, but this is a nasty film. The first one wasn't. The first one was a nice film. It cared about the characters. Sex was kind of like the great red herring in the film. It was a bit like it's the same reason The Inbetweeners works quite well, is because as puerile as
quite
it is,
relatable.
It's got a heart to it, and these guys are nice idiots. As bad as they behave, in the first one they learnt stuff. Sex didn't work out for all of them in sort of many different ways, and everyone was treated fairly. And there's a scene in the first one. I'm not spoiling this because it's 10 years old or whatever, where the Shermanator wets himself at the prom. And that scene really stood out because it's the one piece of nastiness in the whole film. And it just showed how nice the rest of the film was. That bit kind of, you went, no, I don't like that bit. But, I mean, here we have a film, right? 10 minutes in, and the joke is that someone is a gay. That was it. That was the first big howl of laughter in the cinema was, ha ha, the guys are gay. And then that's it. 10 minutes in, and we're in sort of gay panic territory. Oh, and also in this film, if you're a woman, you're there primarily to be drugged or drunk and stripped. And the first one never did that. The first one never did it, and it's a real shame because it was a nice, honest film. And like I say, people learnt stuff. Here, they've unlearned everything. I mean, the other real problem is that it doesn't say anything about any of the characters. I mean, it sets up some really interesting ideas about parenting, about celebrity. It even goes so far as to have one of them almost as sort of like a house husband. So it's got these sort of ideas. They're all in places they didn't think they'd sort of end up at. And then it just stops that. It completely ignores all of that. And Jim and Michelle get into some kind of sexcapade, scandalous act, and the police turn up and there's bondage gear and all that stuff. Kevin a bit later says, well, I am an architect working from home, so, we can forget about him being a housewife, because, men don't do that.
They don't really do that.
And Oz, there's nothing, it sort of goes on about his celebrity status, but it's not that. It hasn't really got anything to say about it. And Stifler, right, who I'm sure is no stranger to date rape, just turns up and drags the whole film back 13 years. Because what they've done is said, that was the funny stuff. They haven't gone, what made the film work? They've gone, what was the funny stuff? Oh, in the third one, Stifler ate a poo. Let's have some poo. And I've got to say, there's a bit near the end, and I don't care if I'm spoiling this, right? We're supposed to cheer when somebody gets punched in the face for being a bit of a jerk. We're supposed to cheer at someone being assaulted at a high school reunion because he's a bit of a dick. And then we're supposed to be laughing at the gays. Oh no, but a bit later the film makes us go, oh, look at Stifler laughing at the gays. No, that's just what you spent the rest of the film asking us to do. And as if to even go back on that, they have a couple of lesbians turned up, and by the time the lesbians turned up near the end, people in my screen went, ha, look at them, lesbian. Maybe I was sat with a rotten crowd, right? But
look at those lesbians.
It's a poor thing when such a great film, I'm watching it thinking, wow, John Cho, he's pretty cool. He's in Star Trek and Harold and Kumar. He's the best thing in it. And he is a genuinely funny and quite interesting, ambivalent character, I think. But the rest of the film, oh my word, it's just not funny. It's just not funny because it's mean. Sorry, I had to get that out of my system. And I went home, right? 2 hours after we got home, Kate said to me, you're actually depressed about this, aren't you? And I said, yes, I actually feel like a bit of humanity has left. Has been left.
I just can't believe I can't believe you're taking it so seriously. This is a film that is supposed to be ridiculous, and I don't think. And fair enough, American Pie, the first one, did have some heart behind it, but why the fuck do you need that anymore? It's done. We know these characters. We don't need to set them up. They don't need to. So all this is, and this is what they were going for, this is what they should have been going for, was cheap, stupid, disgusting, situational, horrible comedy. And that is what it needed. That's what it did. And that's why it was funny.
Yeah, but I mean, Something About Mary does that with quite unlikable characters.
Yeah, but they have to set up the characters first. They don't need any setup.
It's still got heart behind it.
Yeah. Why does a film need heart behind it to be funny?
Because you have to be able to empathise with the characters.
What I'm saying
you
is
have to be able to believe the situations have to be believable, and the way some of these guys act in this film, I'm sorry, but it's borderline illegal.
There's no one. There's no one to root for. That's my. That's my problem.
They're all terrible
people.
You know.
It's like so. There's like I say. Well, I think we're out of spoiler territory because we don't care on this film. Jim gets in a car with his babysitter girl who he has been drooling over. She takes her top off. She ends up with her head in his lap. He doesn't really do anything to stop it. He's married with a kid and kind of all that kind of stuff. And then you've got Oz, who actually ends up kissing this other girl on the dance floor. He's still married as well. Fair enough, his wife's crazy, but and it's all these little things. And like you said, you can let go, and it happens. But when you think about it, you think, well, no, that's just not. It's not very nice. All these people are just being horrible, and there's just I just can't. I don't like that. I don't mind when it's accidental and situational and slapstick and that, because that all works. But when it's just like when you said my biggest problem was, it was like, the gays, yeah, great, the gays, and then you can plan our wedding, yay! What? Why can he plan your wedding? Because he's what, stereotyped into being good at design or something? Isn't that hilarious? Oh God, there's gays. Oh,
I thought that was a really good resolution for him at the end. The whole series, he's been throwing the gay bit, and to be honest, I can't remember the gay joke at the start, but I believe you that it was there.
The gay joke at the start was Oz comes home and says,
"Oh,
why
yeah,
are you in the hot tub with that man?" And his wife says, "He's an interior designer. He's a gay." And then I think he stands up, waves his wrist, and goes, "Ooh, whoopsie!" Or
and then he comes on to Oz
or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then later, he's got a bum. It's hilarious.
I am by no means saying this is a highbrow comedy gold film, but can you not forgive it? It's few, because I don't think, like, you seem to hate every second of it. I think you can forgive it. I think you can forgive it some mistakes, like you could forgive it because it's American Pie. I mean, I love the series so much. I've seen every film apart from the straight to DVD ones. I went to see 2, which I thought was better than 1. I went to see 3, which I didn't like at all, and I went to see this one, and I thought it's good. I'm not recommending this film wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to play almost devil's advocate here and say I don't get what's so wrong with it.
I'd forgive it if it was funny.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to for me.
So,
If it made me laugh, I'd have been okay. I'm laughing at it, therefore I must have right or wrong. I must have some reaction to it that it made me smile. But honestly, I didn't. I just sat there and was just like nothing. It just inspired absolutely no comedy in me at all.
See, this is it. I'm not saying there are certain things about which you should never joke.
No, exactly.
I'm just saying the jokes they make about the jokes that are made are essentially just mean. I think it's quite a mean-spirited film. I think sort of the second American Pie film was where the rot set in, because that's when they decided Stifler was to become a main character. Because in the first one, he's not really a main character,
No.
and they said, "Oh, you know what? The guy who said dick face or something, that's hilarious. Get him in." And there were funny bits in it. There were like some great physical comedy with a pan lid, and Eugene Levy is quite funny. But even at that point, when they were going on Jewish dating websites, I was thinking, "Oh, please don't drag this man into this."
Yeah, no, I get why you guys don't like it, and I went into because I'd heard both of you'd gone to see it, and you'd both sort of.
I really wanted to like it. Well, I really wanted to like it.
I think if I'd gone in and thought that, then I might have had more of a problem with it.
Yeah, maybe.
But I had such low expectations, and I went this week, literally a couple of days ago, with my girlfriend, and I'd said about you two really hating it, and we were just. Oh, come on! Let's just go. Let's just get this over with. And neither of us hated it. Neither of us thought, "Wow,"
Yeah,
but it was it wasn't wasted money. And I think I started off by not laughing at things, almost because I thought I shouldn't laugh, and then I got carried away with it, and then I thought, "Screw it, why not?" I don't. Fair enough. I'll go with this, and I ended up enjoying it. And I can take your points of all the bad bits about it, and that's why you didn't like it. But I'd say if you do like the first American Pie, don't expect it to be like that. But if you liked the characters from it, if you liked Stifler, if you like to see all the stupid stuff he does, this is going to be your film.
Also playing are the truly excellent pirates in An Adventure with Scientists and the truly dire Battleship, which isn't in an adventure with anything because it doesn't deserve to be, plus Snow White reimagining Mirror Mirror and the surprisingly well-cast Cold Light of Day, and you can find reviews for both of these films on our YouTube channel via the links in the description. And now it's time to turn our attention to new Blu-ray and DVD releases, and Tom Cruise is back as Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible 4 Ghost Protocol.
An hour ago, a bomb blew up the Kremlin. The president has initiated Ghost Protocol. The entire IMF has been disavowed. Now I've been ordered to take you to Washington, where they will hang the Kremlin bombing on you and your team, unless you were to escape after assaulting Brandt and me. But if anyone of your team is caught, they will be branded terrorists out to incite global nuclear war.
So what happens now?
Your mission, should you choose to accept it.
So, what's the play?
Who are you really, Brandt?
We all have our secrets. Don't we, Ethan?
The Impossible Missions Force have been framed for a terrorist attack in Moscow and must go on the run to catch the real villains and clear their own names. Gentlemen, your mission, should you choose to accept it, these are all terrible intros this week, is to tell me what you think about these shenanigans.
Much better than any other Mission Impossible film I've seen. I have to say I haven't seen the second or third.
So better than one.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed one. Actually,
Yes.
no, I have seen the second one, I think. Okay. But it was so bad that I've forgotten it.
Okay.
Love it.
The third, I hear, is actually quite good.
Yeah,
but again,
I like
so
three. I like
and
three a lot.
I'm going to watch it
It's
now.
got the
because,
Hoffman in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, I was refreshed. It was a refreshing action film. And
Yeah.
I literally watched it again this weekend. But I just thought, it didn't feel like a recycled film where they've just gone, right, chuck a bit of this in, chuck a bit of that in. It's got Ethan Hunt. You know who Ethan Hunt is. You know he's good. Tom Cruise, you can dislike him as much as you want. He's a good actor, I think.
I think he fits the role perfectly.
Yeah, and they
works.
just come up with a fairly basic story. Well, not a basic story, but it's ultimately it's a basic story that they put in lots of spy stuff in, some sort of double crosses or some clever ways that they do things, and that's what for me Mission Impossible was. That's why I really liked the first one, because it felt more like that rather than a big action blockbuster. But they included also some really good action set pieces. I mean, almost each one that I can think of was really good, and it was tense, and I was thinking, I hope he makes this. I hope he gets a briefcase or all this kind of stuff. And I really enjoy it. And if you like action films, you're going to really like this.
Yeah, I like it a lot as well. I mean, like I say, I have seen the other three. Like I say, it's as good. I like three a lot. It's as good as three. One's very good. I think one's quite a special film because it was quite different in its approach. I think it's got a very good script and a very
it was more spy
very
kind
tight.
of. Yeah,
I like it. But like I say, 4 very good. My only negative to it, and I saw it at the cinema when it came out in December and loved it. I think it's a shame if you missed it in the cinema. It doesn't have the same impact, because especially that scene in climbing the tower in the cinema
I was
like
disappointed when I was watching
pants-wettingly tense, but it still comes out good on DVD. But my only negative is that it's the first entry in the series that started for me to feel a bit like a Bond film, because it's not as twisty and turny and double-crossy as they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Like the other ones, there's normally either a massive revelation and something going. And I'm not saying that can be quite formulaic, but I think with the advent of Daniel Craig and the more actiony James Bonds, this just had quite a linear narrative, kind of straight through. He's got to get this, and this guy's here. And so for me, that was a really small pickup on it. Really, just so I had something negative to say. That was only it. But it doesn't take itself too seriously. There's a cracking moment at the end where Tom Cruise says a line, which is when he's pressing a big button, which is hilarious, and it really
they actually reference that later on.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly, and it shows them there's nothing worse than this kind of film taking itself too seriously. But it ticks all the boxes for me. I think the set pieces are great, the acting's pretty good. I think Brad Bird does a great job in his first kind of live action film. It's obviously been storyboarded pretty tightly within an inch of its life, but I still think it works really well.
Yeah, no, I think it's a solid recommendation for this one because I really enjoyed Mission Impossible 4. Not a big fan of 2 or 3. I thought 3, can't even remember what really happened in it. A bit of a lackluster villain and so on. But this one, I thought, it's a good sort of action-packed adventure movie. I know what you're saying about the first one. The first one is a very different film to all of them. I think the first one's my favourite one.
Yeah, it's great.
But I like that whole kind of De Palma spying and split screens. I love all of that stuff because it's so 70s cinema. It's brilliant. But this one, I've got to say that there is a scene with a skyscraper in Abu Dhabi or
I think it's
somewhere.
Dubai, one of the two.
Dubai, it's
and
the
it
tallest
is
tower in the world.
a stunning scene, and it's so simply done.
Yeah.
And they set out the rules for what they're going to do during the scene, and that all of that stuff plays off brilliantly, and it's a really tense 5 or 10 minutes with a great gag at the end of it as well. Fantastically done. I mean, Simon Pegg, I tend to find him a bit annoying, but I think in this one, they gave him just the right amount of sort of comedic input to actually make the character worthwhile as opposed to just annoying.
Can I just jump in there?
Yeah.
Interestingly, I really like Simon Pegg, and whenever he's included as a, the comic foil in these kind of things, I think he's very good. I didn't think he worked in this one. I didn't think it fit with Mission Impossible.
Right,
it was too jokey. It was. I know you said it had a comic. It didn't take itself too seriously, and I think yes, it didn't. But then there's a limit, and that's kind of what ruined it to me. It was almost too jokey.
It's funny because I think you might have suffered from not seeing 3 because he's in 3, isn't he?
Oh, is he?
And so it's a little step up from that. But if you're coming into this without seeing 3, you'll think, God, he's just there for comic relief. So I think that might be something they just built on slightly, and that might be why there's a bit of a different perception of it there potentially.
It just felt a bit too much for me. But I mean, it wasn't unfunny. It just jarred a bit with the rest of it.
Yeah, and I think it works better than the new Bond. I just really don't like the new Bond films. They're so serious.
I like
whilst
the seriousness.
being very ridiculous. And whereas this one just goes, it's a bit ridiculous. I think maybe that's a little bit of the weakness as well, because my problem with Ethan Hunt is that he's seemingly a super...
He's like the Hulk.
Sort of superpowers. Maybe if he was a bit more... If there was a bit more doubt that
a bit more injury
he
involved.
might not be... completely awesome at all times in everything he does, then it might be a bit more enjoyable film. But I thought the climax was fantastic as well. Really interesting set piece within sort of a automated car park thing.
Yeah, really clever.
And I thought it was a very smart film. I've got to say, when I saw it at the cinema was packed and the whole audience loved it. And going back to that skyscraper bit again, I've never heard a cinema so quiet in my life. It was fantastic.
I'm not surprised.
I think, if you're looking for sort of bright and breezy, action shenanigans, go for this one every time. It's a really good film, better than the last two. And finally, before this podcast self-destructs, we have the part of the show where we get to mention anything we've seen in the past week that we think is worth talking about. Pete, why don't you kick us off?
Well, I watched Warrior this week, and it came out a month or two ago, but I hadn't got around to watching it, and I really, really enjoyed it. It's about 2 estranged brothers, one of them Tom Hardy, who has beefed up to epic proportions.
Like Bronson, or even more than Bronson.
Probably about Bronson, possibly even more, but the neck muscles are back. It's just crazy.
It's the second shoulders.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Anyway, he plays it really well, as he does with most things I've seen him in. And his brother, who is Joel Egerton, is that how you say it? Edgerton? Yeah, who was kind of boring in it. Anyway, basically, they both have fighting pasts and train a dad. And they both decide separately to fight in this, essentially the World Cup of Mixed Martial Arts, which is called Sparta, which is a decent concept. And basically, it centers around them training for that. And the characters are fleshed out quite nicely as they're training for it. You find out about their lives and why they're doing this to earn, I think the prize money's $5 million. So they're both quite cliched. Oh, I need this for such and such a good cause. So you're essentially rooting for both brothers. And I won't say when, but at some point in the competition they meet. I guess I decided who I wanted to win. But when they're actually fighting, you don't know who you want to win, and it's because you like them both so much.
There's not like a clear villain.
No, exactly. And I like that because it gives a lot of time to both of them. It gives a lot of time to the dad, who's actually played by Nick Nolte, who I was a bit disappointed in. But, he does a good enough performance. Anyway, the fight, I was kind of thinking, well, how on earth are they going to do this? Because they've set it up so that we like both of them. And who on earth is going to win? Because obviously someone has to. And I won't say how they do it, but they do it in a it's a very good payoff, and I really, really liked it, and it gets quite emotional, and I wholeheartedly recommend it.
And Russell?
Yeah, I managed to finally catch up with The Devils. Ken Russell's The Devils, which I know we've mentioned a few times on the podcast, is kind of being re-released and so on, and finally managed to catch up with it this week. Oh, I just was blown away by it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's like, as we've all said before, I think we very rarely tend to go into films these days with knowing nothing about them, and sometimes it can be a really good thing. And I don't think I've ever seen another Ken Russell film, from the start to finish all the way through. And so it was kind of coming at The Devils, completely no expectations at all of it. And I mean, it's got it all. In all honesty, sex, violence, self-harm, nuns, religion, politics, science. Everything you could possibly want, but in quite a coherent way. It's making some fairly big points in there, and some inimitable Ken Russell style, very obvious ways, but also kind of very subtle ways at the same time. You can see why it was kind of so controversial on its release. It's pretty much out there in terms of its depiction of nuns and religion and the Catholic order and so on and so forth, and kind of naughty things going on. Oliver Reed and Vanessa Redgrave were just phenomenal in it. I mean, I haven't seen much Oliver Reed either, to be honest with you, and I was amazed by his, me and Winter were talking, almost Brando kind of type presence, and he's got this phenomenal moustache that he kind of twirls, and he's just this brilliant. Because he could be a bit pantomime, he could be this kind of pantomime villain, but he's not. He's this really strong character. And I mean, so yeah, they don't make them like it anymore. They don't make films like this anymore. The only thing I can compare it to is something a bit like The Wicker Man. It's got that kind of sensibility to it, and if you like that kind of British. When you say British horror, it's not quite the right word because it's not a horror, but it's got real horrific elements to it, and it will certainly stay with you for a long time. And to be honest, it's my kind of favourite kind of cinema. So no, I really enjoyed The Devils. If you can get hold of a copy, go and check it out.
Okay, I've got a couple of films I saw. First of all, a film called Bellflower, and it's a real love it or hate it sort of hipster indie movie to the max, to be honest with you. Notionally, it's about two guys who really like flamethrowers and Mad Max. But it's a really hard film to get a handle on. But I think very rewarding if you can stick with it. It's only out on Region 1, but the Blu-ray but the Blu-ray is Region 3. So worth getting hold of, even if you do end up throwing it out a window after 5 minutes. I also saw Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. It's about a young girl who goes to live with her dad, Guy Pearce, and his new girlfriend, who's Katie Holmes, in the house that they're renovating. The young girl likes drawing spirals. They find a secret basement, and it's produced by Guillermo del Toro.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yada, yada, yada. But it is a surprisingly good horror movie. It's got like 5 out of 10 on the Internet Movie Database, but it's got a really nasty streak to it that makes it quite highly recommended. And on Sunday, I rewatched Star Wars, and you know what? It's brilliant.
So if any of you haven't seen Star Wars and you were wondering what it was like, there's a recommendation from Winter there.
Who directed that? I'm not sure.
Spielberg?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and like us via the Guernsey Film info page on Facebook. Next time we will be discussing salmon fishing in the Yemen, The Dictator, and as if it couldn't get any worse, please shoot me in the face because it's Dark Shadows, the new film from Tim Burton starring Johnny Depp in some makeup and a wig.
And Helena Bonham Carter, maybe?
I think she's on the poster. But never mind, because we'll also take a look at Steve McQueen's sex addiction.
Yay! Can't wait.
Shame, starring Michael Fassbender and his bottom. So good times indeed.